You'll be playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
They'll be playing with me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I made the playoffs last year. They didn't.
Welcome back, you guys, and I want to talk about some NBA experiments that probably were destined to fail from the start, or by the time we get to 2023, it will be obvious a change needs to be made. We are probably in the end days of the Lakers' experiment of using Patrick Beverley as their starter. He's been in a lot of trade rumors about a month ago, and just recently, there's been reports that he wouldn't mind returning to Minnesota if the Lakers trade him and his new team buys him out. We know what Pat Bev was brought in to be for the Lakers, a low-usage, spot-up player who plays defense next to LeBron and Anthony Davis. Their defense was terrible last year on the perimeter, so he was brought in to help, but so far it doesn't look like the Lakers need him, and he hasn't been shooting well. If the team already has a respectable defense, if Anthony Davis is going to play like this the rest of the way, then you might as well attach Beverley with another Laker, a draft pick, and see what scraps you can get. But what's the point of doing all that if Anthony Davis is out for a month and you'll get nothing of value out of that package? The thing about Pat Bev in the last 2 to 3 years was, despite how much his reputation was being a locker room guy, it was always his underrated offense that made him someone who could play 30 minutes a night. If it's just Pat Bev doing his stuff on defense, but he can't make a shot, then he's not as useful. Especially on this Lakers roster. I mean, to be fair to Beverley, they are playing him as like a wing defender, and he's 6'1", kind of hard to do that every night. He's still useful as an end of the rotation guy, someone you throw out there depending on the matchup, or you don't play many minutes at all. A return to Minnesota makes more sense here. This segment is for whatever the Washington Wizards are doing. I don't understand the experiment of let's make the play-in game every year. It's generally confusing. Are they tanking? Like, are they stealth tanking right now? They're on a 10-game losing streak. Or are they trying to compete for a playoff spot? To be fair, they have been dealing with injuries, but when you come into a season with Bradley Beal on a new contract, Kristaps Porzingis, and you bring in guys with playoff experience like Monty Morris and Will Barton, you're trying to win games. This team isn't that good fully healthy anyways, but you have a path to make the play-in game, and that's the problem right there. They need to stop trying to make the 6th seed and 7th seed and go out in the first round. They already did this in the year they had Westbrook. It feels like they've been in this spot for like 5+ years. The two things that you can say are going well for the Wizards is that Kristaps Porzingis is having a good season and Kyle Kuzma is raising his trade value. They've been the main source of offense for most of the season. Kuzma has never been more valuable on the trade market. Multiple teams are looking to trade for him. He's having his best year with more usage. Their young players haven't taken the next step like their peers around the league. I don't know who to blame more, their player development staff or the players themselves. Denny Avdia's jump shot looks broken, but my biggest question is he a guy you want on the ball creating or more off the ball? I think you bring back Rui Hachimura, he's up for a new contract. He can score a little bit, he runs the floor, he plays hard. Once you trade Kuzma, you can put Rui in a bigger role while you tank for a better draft pick. Jordan Goodwin is actually pretty solid. He really tries on defense and someone who'd be a good fit as a secondary ball handler next to Beal. I think we'd see more out of him if the team was kind of good. They have Corey Kispert. He's a good shooter, but he's bad on defense and can't create offense on his own. None of these guys are changing the direction of your team, even if they've shown flashes. I just don't know what you do right now. The time to tank and begin a rebuild was 2 years ago, not right now. I would not want to be the GM because they're actually stuck. Bradley Beal's contract is pretty bad. He's going to be getting paid almost $60 million in the final year of his deal, and he has a no trade clause, so he can decide where he wants to go. He also has a few nagging injuries every year, and guys like Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell have passed him up as a player to me. 2 years ago, I would never think we'd be in a scenario where Devin Booker is clearly better than Bradley Beal, but we're here now. They're kind of in a similar situation to the Bulls when you look at it from a player evaluation perspective. The Wizards front office is evaluating good players, bringing them in, and setting expectations as if they're great players. How many bad contracts have we seen get given out because a team thought a decent player was actually great? I'm not an NBA draft person, but from what I've been reading, there are really good prospects outside of Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama. So it's time to tank for these guys instead of competing to be the best play-in team. But if not, I guess you trade Kuzma, try to get some pieces, hope Beal comes back healthy and looks good. Maybe Beal, Porzingis, and Goodwin can do something together, but I'm not really banking on it. Around this time last year, the Chicago Bulls were tied for first place in the Eastern Conference. You remember how fun it was for this team? DeRozan was in the MVP race. The offense around their big three with Levine, Vucevic, and DeRozan looked really good. Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso were carrying the defense on the wing. It was a good time to be a Bulls fan. But this year it's been awful, and this moment really captures their feel as a team. You remember that game where the Bulls lost to the Magic and Zach LaVine went 1 of 14 from the field and got benched in the fourth quarter? Head coach Billy Donovan after the game basically said, hey, he was off tonight, I had to take him out, but don't expect me to bench him going forward, he's still starting. LaVine after the game says, that's Billy's decision, he's got to lay with it. Do I agree with it? No. I think I can go out there and still be me if I'm missing shots, but that's his decision and he has to stand on it. It's been weeks since that loss and they've moved past that, but that quote just kind of sums up where the Bulls are at. The Bulls built this team because Zach LaVine started to show some real consistency. Trading for Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan isn't the most formidable big three. It's not the cleanest fit of players, but it's a lot of talent, and if you add some role players, maybe you could get somewhere. The Bulls' problem is that they're saying to themselves, alright, we're going to run teams off the floor with our offense and defend at an average level to win games. But they aren't getting anywhere offensively. They don't even have a league average offense. The Bulls are built to win with their offense. You don't make all these trades and move these pieces for DeMar DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic and expect them to not give you anything offensively. To be fair, they are missing Lonzo Ball, and we know how important key role players are to connecting the starting lineup together, but you should be able to hold your own and have a decent offense without him. We've seen big threes or big twos be able to fill in the gaps when guys are missing and make it work, but when your three best players are all stars on the edges, there's a hard ceiling you cannot break. Now I think the next thing to ask is, what is their exit plan if this continues? Firing Billy Donovan is an obvious move. There's been stuff online about how the Bulls should break up this core and teams around the league are paying attention. This trio doesn't really make each other better. Like if DeRozan is going off, LaVine or Vucevic are probably having mediocre games. It doesn't seem like they ever string together multiple games together where they're all on the same page. Nikola Vucevic is up for a new contract soon, and the assets the Bulls traded for him have more value than him right now. Wendell Carter, he's injured, but he's been better than him since the trade was made. Franz Wagner, he's one of the better 23 and under players in the league right now. To be fair to Vucevic, he would be better in a more equal opportunity offense. He doesn't really have a true role. Zach LaVine is having one of his worst seasons and he's dealing with a knee injury. He's getting to the rim a lot less often than he used to, which has been his game as we know. And if he's not getting to the rim, then he's not worth that giant contract. One of the worst things that could happen to a perimeter player that relies on athleticism is getting a knee injury or having multiple knee injuries. How many guys have we seen not be able to return to what they were a season ago because of a knee problem? We saw this with Victor Oladipo. I just don't know where you go this decade if Zach LaVine isn't a top 25, top 20 player, if Lonzo's knee is cooked, if Vucevic is brought back on a massive contract or let go, and if DeRozan slowly declines into his mid-30s. There's a discussion around the Rudy Gobert and Karl Towns experiment that hasn't been brought up much that I'll mention in a little bit, that I think will end up being the main discussion in like 6 to 12 months. When the Wolves traded away all those draft picks to the Jazz to get Rudy Gobert, they must have been in the camp of, okay, Gobert is actually underrated and he can fix most of our problems. Gobert can fix the defense while Karl Towns and Anthony Edwards can use most of their energy on offense. You can look through Minnesota's lineup data with both of them on the court and see this has been a mediocre team. It's hard to be a consistent team when you have a really good offense but bad defense when Cat is in without Gobert, and then a bad offense but really good defense when Gobert is in without Towns. You're never going to be in a rhythm, and other teams can adjust their lineups to exploit that pretty easily. My thing is, if you're going to build around Cat, and I've been saying this the whole era, the whole time he's been here, then he has to play center, and the power forward next to him needs to be somebody like Jay Crowder, Grant Williams, PJ Tucker, or Harrison Barnes, someone like that, a hybrid type forward. I don't like Towns playing on the perimeter on defense, especially at the power forward spot. I don't like him on defense anywhere, but if you have him, you might as well go all in on spacing and driving and kicking for threes. Instead of bringing in a center to make up for Towns' defense, get wing defenders to make up for that who can also shoot. I like to think you don't judge a player on their worst or best day. You see how they play over the course of several games. I'm sure Cat will come back from his calf injury and they'll have a bunch of good games. These guys are too good individually to not go on a run, but there's still a ceiling to this team. You just can't trade all of those draft picks for someone you can't give the ball to at the end of a game and who doesn't space the floor. Towns' field goal attempts are down this season. I don't like a situation where you make Towns take less shots. That just makes him less effective. You can't tell Cat to go out there and focus on grabbing rebounds and playing defense. That's not his game. There's lots of problems with this team, and I think it's going to be increasingly obvious over time that one of the two has to be traded by next season. I can already imagine by like April and StatMuse is tweeting out Anthony Edwards' numbers without Cat and Gobert on the court. You can already see how much space Edwards has when Gobert or Towns are off the floor. I know the Bulls' defense is terrible, but look at what Anthony Edwards can do when there's more space. It's pretty simple. Towns is the most tradable. Anthony Edwards is off the table, obviously. And you can't really trade Gobert because that's the front office admitting within a year that their first big move was a failure. And not to mention that they're also going through a transition in ownership, and you never know how they will react to a situation like that. And that's it for me. If you made it to the end of this one, appreciate it. Probably could have mentioned the situations in Toronto and Atlanta as well, but that's for another one. So I'll see you guys in my next video.